Hi, so this is my reflection over my assignment for teaching unit. The lesson that my students were doing for this assignment was over unit prices. So before that we could even get started with that actual assignment, we first had to review how to identify and write rates. Then we had to convert those rates into unit rates before we could convert them into unit prices. We also had to review dividing decimals, which is something that we had covered earlier in the year but needed a little bit of a refresher. So this lesson covered Common Core Standard 6 RPA 3B, which states that sixth grade students will be able to use ratios and rate reasoning to solve real world and mathematical problems, solve unit rate problems, including those involving unit pricing and constant speed. So the evidence that I asked my students to show, which identified their understanding, were in the form of formative assessments, in the use of whiteboard work, whole group, small group, and one on one discussions and practice problems. I frequently have my students practice problems on their individual whiteboards and then ask them to kind of a think, pair, share, where they solve the problem, share their answer with a partner, and then discuss whether if one of their answers is incorrect, whose answer is incorrect and why, and then to go back and fix it together. So they're doing a self assessment in that situation as well. I always try to have them do a few practice problems. I don't like them to do a lot. So the practice problems just help me see that they can translate what we're doing in whole group and small group into their independent practice. And then their final assessment was a completion of the final real world application task, which included them actually shopping through the Walmart and Dillon's websites, where they had to compare two sizes of the same items, for example, two sizes of goldfish, and find the unit price for those two items and compare them. On top of that, which I explain here in the real world application, um, they were also given the scenario of they were planning for a party, they were grocery shopping for 1 week and then leaving to go on vacation, or they were planning for their just regular family grocery shopping. So they had to find the unit price of the item, and then they had to determine which of those items was best for their real world scenario and what they were shopping for. So they also had to use persuasive writing in their final assessment to explain why they chose that item, knowing that one unit price was smaller than the other. They still chose to use the more expensive item for whatever reason. They just had to use persuasive writing to explain that. So they had to get the answer correct on their unit price comparison, but they could then determine which item they wanted to buy based on their scenario, but they had to explain it. So a variety of assessment formats that I used was discussion, small group work, independent practice, the final test results, and the student's ability to use persuasive arguments to defend their answers. Students were also given multiple opportunities to self-assess through whole group and just hearing the responses of their classmates, small group discussion. I also frequently stop students and have independent discussions and asking them to walk me through their thought process and how they solve their problems, checking their own work on their show your worksheets, and having to explain their reasoning. So they were assessed frequently throughout the 3 day process, excuse me. In the future, what I would change with this assignment was I would actually make this a field trip activity. Our grocery store is probably 4 blocks away, and that would be a great opportunity for us to walk there and see the items in person, have them maybe have a grocery list with them and choose from those items. I would also implement a budget where they could practice the skill of budgeting and maybe make it a little bit of a longer assignment so that they would have time to fit that into their budget. Overall, I thought this assignment went really well. My students seem to really enjoy it. It's definitely something that I will do in the future and continue to tweak until I get it exactly how I want.